This is Max Williams with United Real Estate, and today I wanted to talk about the steps required in buying a home. This video is particularly for my first-time home buyers, or if you haven't bought in many years, you may be a little bit rusty on the process. But I get calls frequently from people that want to buy and they just don't know where to start. So I wanted to address some of those issues here in this video. Just a few days ago, I got a call from Tiffany. Spoke with Tiffany, and I got permission from Tiffany to kind of share her situation with you. Confidentiality is very important in real estate, so she was kind enough to say that I could share little tidbits from the call with you. Tiffany was frustrated. She said, "Hey, if I'm going to spend $1,200–1,300 on rent for a tiny apartment in the area that I like, I might as well buy a house." And I agree with her. She was a little frustrated because she didn't know where she was going to get the $10,000 to $20,000 needed for her down payment. And I shared with her that that was a concern that a lot of people have. But I wanted to find out specifically where she got the information on that dollar amount. And she shared with me that she got it from Trulia, or Zillow actually. And it didn't surprise me. There is a lot of information on the internet about real estate, and unfortunately, a lot of it is inaccurate. The sites that provide information to consumers, primarily Zillow and Trulia, two of the biggest, are in that business for one main purpose, and that purpose is not to provide information to you as the consumer. It is to make money off of selling leads to agents. We have agents in Metro Richmond area that spend a small fortune. Some of them spend around $10,000 a month on leads. When you go to those sites, one of the main goals of those sites is to get your information. They're not getting your information just to get it. They are getting it to sell it. And that information is very valuable to people in my business because they, of course, can make money off of contacting you and ultimately doing business with you. So it's important to know that whenever you go to those sites and you leave your information, it's not a matter of if someone's going to call you. It's just a matter of when they're going to call you and how many are going to call you. So, word to the wise. The other piece of information that I wanted to share about those sites was that the information is often inaccurate. Another example, I was at a fraternity meeting here this past week, and one of my fraternity brothers came up and said, "Hey Max, look at this house here. I really like it. Me and my wife are thinking about buying. What do you think of it?" And the first thing I saw on it was a banner that said pre-foreclosure. Pre-foreclosure doesn't mean anything to most people. However, in the business, it means that that house is not for sale. That simply means that the person that owns that house has missed maybe 3 or 4 payments, and the bank is in the process potentially of foreclosing. Now, that person may go ahead and make those payments, or they may file bankruptcy and the clock resets all over again, or that house could go to foreclosure. Foreclosure in this case in Virginia is actually a trustee sale. And a trustee sale basically is when the house goes to the courthouse steps. Someone buying a home with financing is not going to be able to buy that house. Those are going to be investors there. They're typically going to attempt to buy that house for 60–70 cents on the dollar. And if it doesn't sell at the courthouse steps, then the bank will take it back, and then it'll come back on the market as a REO, which stands for real estate owned, or a traditional foreclosure that anybody can buy with, in most cases, traditional financing. So the devil is in the details with all of that, but I wanted to share it with you because it's a huge misnomer that that information on those sites is even close to being accurate. In many cases, it's not. So getting back to Tiffany's story, I shared with her that a good lender here locally can look at her situation and get her in for far less than $10,000–$20,000. Many of my buyers get in for less than what they would pay for first month rent and security deposit if they were renting the same home. Several of my people here in the past 6 months have gotten in with hundreds of dollars, as in $400 or $500 or even less. And so it's not necessary to have a huge chunk of cash in order to buy a house. That is done by a number of different ways. Number one is there are several 100% financing loan programs available. Remember, every transaction will have closing costs. Closing costs are the responsibility of the buyer. However, there are grant programs available. Now, the grant programs are important because not only is it a way for you to get basically free money if you're eligible, but also because most people don't know how to go about getting that grant money, where to go. That's why it's important to work with a good loan officer that's familiar with those programs and, more importantly, can do the paperwork for you. I have had clients in the past that obtained their own lender, and their lender basically left it up to them to find their own grant money, to do the paperwork, to run around to the different nonprofits, and it was just more problematic than it should have been. It was more of a headache for my buyer than it should have been. The good lenders locally that specialize in first-time home buyer business will do that stuff for you. And you can actually combine grants. You can combine 2 or even 3 grants on top of each other. And so it's not the loan officer's responsibility technically to do that for you. However, the good ones and the ones that I use do. So important to keep that in mind. A lot of people think, hey, in order to get a mortgage, I'll just go to my lender where I have my checking account for the past 15 years and maybe they'll give me a good deal. That's the wrong answer. And the reason it's the wrong answer is because they have no loyalty to you. They have absolutely no loyalty to you. They're going to give me the same deal they're going to give you if I were to work in off the street. Because basically it's all numbers driven. If my numbers, my credit score, my income, my debt all lines up, they're going to offer me the loan just like they would you. My best friend is a former banking executive, and every time I say this on tape, she just cringes. We have had several discussions about this, and she has not changed my mind, is that you need to go with the institution or the loan officer that's going to be best for you, and forget any past business that you've done with them, because it really doesn't matter. That is extremely important. Just like if you were to go to a hospital, you could go to the best hospital in town, but you could have a mediocre doctor. So with the lending, you could have a great institution, but if your loan officer is mediocre, then that's exactly what you get. You get mediocre service. So big proponent of purposefully and deliberately selecting who you work with from a lending standpoint. Also, you want a lender that's going to be patient, that's going to explain things to you and not talk down to you. I remember when I bought my first house, when we finished talking with the loan officer, I said to my agent, I said, hey, I'm making a big move here, and this loan officer seemed kind of short with me and didn't really seem like he appreciated my business. And the agent said, yeah, actually, you're kind of right. I noticed that too. And there's way too much money at stake to do business with people that aren't going to, number one, treat you right. Number two, give you great customer service. So some very important things to think about there. When you do approach that lender, they're going to look at several things. They're going to look at your income, your debt, and your credit. Those are the 3 components of what they use to evaluate you as a buyer. Now, the documentation they're initially going to ask for, 3 main documents. Number 1 is going to be 30 days pay stubs. Number 2 is going to be 3 months bank statements. And number 3 is going to be your 2 years worth of tax returns. Now, if you're self-employed, they're going to scrutinize your tax returns really hard. They're going to look at your deductions. They are really, unfortunately, going to beat you up. Lenders do not make it super easy for people that are self-employed. They do want to see 2 years of history for self-employed individuals as well. And sometimes I'll have people that'll say, hey, I know I'm not going to have any problem with getting qualified because I have an 800 credit score. Well, there's other things that lenders look at other than credit score. I just mentioned one of them. They want to see a history in the same line of work that's acceptable to them. They actually, someone could have an 800 score. You can make $20,000 a month and still not qualify. You could have $1 million in the bank and still not qualify to buy a $200,000 house, because if you don't meet one of those criteria, then you just don't get a loan under that program. So there's not a whole lot of common sense that goes into some of this lending. So it's important to make sure that you know up front and can plan early, so you are able to go ahead and get that financing. One more quick example. Another reason why it's important to start early in your process. Let's say, for example, you're an over-the-road truck driver and you make $80,000 a year with your employer. You could go out and become an independent contractor for 14 months and make $120,000, still have an 800 credit score, and you're not going to get that FHA loan just because you don't have that 2-year self-employment history. Even though you may have been driving for 20 years, little glitches like that are important to keep in mind. That's why you want to think about the process early, well before you're ready to go ahead and make that transition, so that you can get whatever you need to get straight if you're not immediately able to qualify. Okay, once the lender gives you that pre-qualification letter, it's going to say how much you can finance. It's also going to give you the different loan options in a separate letter that you will qualify for as well. I'll give you an example. Some people may qualify for FHA, VHDA plus, conventional, USDA. I mean, there's just a number of different loan products. If you're a veteran, VA loan is an absolute amazing benefit. That's no money down. So the lender is going to do all of that and pre-qualify you. That letter is going to be necessary to look at homes. That letter is going to kind of be our ticket to aggressively start moving forward in the active search process. Now, once you get that letter, most buyers will go online, they'll look at open houses, they may even stop by a new construction and look at model homes. But it's important to remember that it's crucial whenever you do that to always disclose to whoever you're talking with that you have an agent. It just makes life much, much easier for everyone if they know. Disclosure, or agency as we call it in the business, is extremely important. It basically means who represents who. If you just show up at an open house, that agent automatically assumes that you don't have an agent. Once you tell them, they'll recognize that and go ahead and respect that. However, if you don't mention it, they just assume that you're out looking on your own and don't have representation. So it's important to always let someone know that you have an agent if you happen to be looking without them. The great thing about the way our system is set up is the vast majority or all of the commission is paid by the seller. So you have a listing agent that represents the seller. Their sole responsibility for the seller is to get them the best price, the best terms possible, and protect that seller in the process. Your buyer's agent that represents you and you alone, their responsibility is to get you the best deal, to share with you any potential issues, to help you with the financing process, to share with you any benefits that you might be able to get, grant money, so forth, and even to go a step further. Here's another great place for an example. You guys know I love examples, obviously. I will have someone send me a house, and I'll look at the listing very, very carefully. And I'll see that the house may have been renovated, looks very, very nice, and I'll see it has electric baseboard heat. It may have central air, electric baseboard heat. I personally know electric baseboard heat is the most expensive way to heat a house other than turning on the oven and leaving the oven open. Extremely expensive, inefficient, Not smart. My buyers don't always know that. They don't even know what electric baseboard heat is in many cases. So my duty is to tell them, hey, this house looks good, but this heating bill is going to be through the roof, and give them the reasons why it's going to be through the roof. The listing agent's not responsible to do that. They have basically told you, hey, this house has electric baseboard heat, but they don't go into the details. It's not their responsibility, and their goal is to get the house sold for the seller. So they're not going to talk in a negative light about the house if they don't have to. There are some things they do have to disclose if it's a defect, or if there's a problem that they're aware of, they're responsible to tell you. But that's not really a problem. It's just inefficient heating system. So it's important to know how all of that works as you move forward in your process. Once we get that pre-qual letter, I set you up in a portal. The portal is going to show you all of the homes that meet your criteria in the area that you specify. Now, our MLS, our multiple listing service, is the database that all 5,000 plus, I think it's close to 6,000 agents now share in the Metro Richmond area. So any home that comes on the market that's listed with a regular real estate firm, that's where that home is going to appear. So you have the benefit of having all of that information that's going to be fed to you in real time. So if you look at your list at 8 o'clock in the morning and another house pops up at 8:15 that someone entered somewhere in Metro Richmond area, your list is going to update immediately. So there's no lag time. Your list is real time. So it makes it really, really easy to search. You don't have to go back to all these consumer sites and try to fish all over the place to find listings. They're going to come to you immediately. I'll then be able to look at them with you and see what meets your needs, and then move forward from there. Once, a lot of people are curious about the timeline, how long it takes to actually buy a house. Once you find a house and it's put under contract, it takes us 5 weeks to close. Okay, so 5 weeks is the time frame that we're typically looking at. If you are in a lease, simply let me know ahead of time, and we can often negotiate with your landlord to get you out of that lease. If there's a penalty, then what we do is we write in our closing cost concession, the money that we're getting from the seller, we write it in to where we basically get them to take care of that penalty as a byproduct of paying money towards your closing. So it makes it very, very easy for you. We never let a lease stand in the way of us making a major real estate purchase. There's always a way to hopefully negotiate out of that lease with that landlord. And once again, that's where I can help. I can do some things on your behalf to make that process very, very easy. Once that home is under contract, we then have the home inspection stage. The home inspection stage is another round of negotiation. We have the home inspection. The purchaser pays for that. It lasts about 1.5 to 2 hours. Once we have that list, that very detailed list report back from the home inspector, we then ask the seller to pay for part or all of the closing, repairs, or to have those repairs done. It can go either way. We can ask for a dollar credit, or we can just ask them to fix those items. That's something that I sit down with you and we go over that. We come up with our list and we negotiate. In most cases, we're able to make it happen. There's another critical piece that happens at that time that I suggest, and that is a radon inspection. Radon flies under the radar here with the vast majority of real estate transactions. Radon is a naturally occurring gas. In some homes, it is unacceptable as far as the levels. If it's unacceptable, there are systems that can be put in. They often run about $1,500 to $2,000, and it renders the home at safe radon levels. A contractor once spoke to me about radon, and he said he's in the business of radon remediation. He said, Max, living in a home with radon is like smoking cigarettes and you don't even know you're smoking. So as I mentioned, it is a carcinogen. It will kill you. So the extra $150 or so that the radon test costs is money that is well worth it for your safety. Once we get past the negotiation stage for the home inspection, things quiet down tremendously, because now all we're waiting for is the lender and the title company to do all of their documentation, to do their work behind the scenes. And like I said, 5 weeks later from the time the home was put under contract is the time you close. When we close, the day before, or typically the day of closing, we walk through the house, we make sure you're happy with the condition, make sure that repairs have been done, and then we go to closing. The closing is going to consist of you sitting there and signing a whole bunch of documents that will commit you to payments for the next 360 months. In most cases, if you do a 15-year, it'll be 180 months. And while that sounds scary, if you don't do that, you're going to end up paying 360 monthly payments to a landlord. Those payments are going to go up over time. You're not going to get any tax benefit. You're not going to get any appreciation. Basically, you're paying off his or her house. So which one is the better option? Exactly. Wow, that was a mouthful. And I think I probably did a good mile and a half here with you. We really appreciate you hanging in here if you made it this far. If you have any questions about the process, make sure you give me a call. I am always happy to speak with your referrals. If you know someone that is interested or should be interested in buying a home or selling, I actually work as a listing agent too. Most of my videos are geared towards the buying side. However, if you have someone that you know that needs to sell a house, I'd definitely be interested in working with them. I think I can say safely, I have the strongest marketing program online than any other agent that I know. Obviously, you were able to see this video, and so will thousands of others here within the next few days. So give me a call, 804-402-7788. I can reach you on Facebook, under Richmond Area Foreclosures on YouTube, under my name, Max Williams, Realtor. Thanks so much for taking the stroll with me. Have a great day.